happy to introduce Björn Steinar Blumenstein, who is our last speaker today. And he is another person who has been, I have found very inspiring in the Icelandic design community. And I first met him a few years ago when I was looking for projects to show in a design exhibition on recycled objects. And there I met him he had set up a studio in a container where he was recycling plastic. And that was just his spirit, and he has such an expansive mind. It's almost like there is no limit to what can be done and how we can transform waste into something new. And today he is going to talk about a project called Cuts of the Day. Bjorn, you can turn on your camera if you are okay with that. And I think to end the day, it's an inspiration for you to have your evening cocktail or afternoon cocktail, because he will tell us how he was able to transform food waste into alcohol. And yeah, I'm going to give you the floor.
Voila. Can you see me, beautiful people?
Yes, we can see you, Björn.
Okay, wonderful. Then let's get started. Hello, good day. Pleasure to be with you. So my name is Björn Steinar. I'm a product designer based in Reykjavík. And right now I'm sitting in my plastic recycling facility in Grandi, only a minute away from the rest of the crew. And I'm going to tell you very shortly about myself. I graduated from product design from the Icelandic University of the Arts back in 2016. And since then, I've been working on a few self-initiated projects. And that's very important to me to work on my own initiated projects, because it means that I can work on things I'm truly passionate about. And I don't need to waste my time on anything I don't feel very pressing or important. And here you see a glimpse of a project called Skógarnytjar, where I'm working with the forestry sector, a tiny piece of the plastic recycling I run. And last, an outtake of my bachelor thesis about anti-capitalistic design. And in this thesis, I kind of shaped my design practice and laid down a few ground rules for myself to follow, which I do to this date. And it basically means that everything I work on needs to be socially and environmentally justifiable, and I do my very best to stay true to this. And in short, it means that I do everything in my power not to screw any people over or the environment. So that's me in a nutshell. And I'm going to talk about one topic, but two projects within it. Two projects that I was working on them simultaneously, so they kind of overflow and affected each other. First one of the two is called Banana Story. I produced with my friend Johanna Sileman. And let's just get started with it. So Banana Story started with this scenario right here. This is a dumpster full of bananas in Reykjavík city, and it might not seem of particular importance or particular interest even until you realize the fact that we don't have any banana plantations in Iceland. We are a rock situated in the middle of the North Atlantic, and due to the harsh climatic conditions, there's no chance for us to grow fruits. And yet we had all these bananas in the trash. And I wanted to figure out how this was possible. And it led me to interview a local food importer. And the importer educated me about how the world is shrinking at an ever-growing rate due to cargo shipping, and that there are basically no seasons in the world anymore, which means that I needed to kind of start to objectify my research in a way. And that's something very crucial to me in my work, to not only wait for final results, but like continuously produce along the way, because you never really know when you've when you've managed to summon all the crucial elements into the project. So the image on the left, the bananas in the snow, is just meant to mediate how alien the bananas are in the Icelandic landscape. And I continued from there with Johanna. Just very simple exercises like this one, highlighting the journey from Ecuador to Iceland, a journey over 6,600 kilometers. And yet we take the bananas for granted. We throw them away in the dumpster if they have a few black spots on them. Like there's nothing like more basic. And this is a second objectification of our research. It's a cute and simple banana passport, kind of explaining the narrative of the story. It shows that the banana travels for more than 29 days on its way from Guayaquil in Ecuador down to Faxaflóahafnir in Reykjavík, and it visits all these various ports around the globe, follows all these rules and regulations, and we need to keep them in oxygen sealed containers. It's a complicated story, and I truly believe that we would not take these things for granted if we fully understood them. At least I absolutely don't anymore. And then this was just a part of like the research phase, and later on the Victoria and Albert Museum commissioned us to continue and produce some works for an ongoing exhibition. And this is yet another one of those, because in the process we learned that 33 people touch a single banana on its way from Ecuador to Iceland. People maybe in tax offices or at the supermarket. So we wanted to highlight this story, bring those people to the foreground. And this is yet another quick draft, basically, of how we can communicate this. And at last, we created a 2-meter maiden label to explain the story in detail. And this is our proposal to that it would be beneficial for consumers and even producers to have the story clear, because you need to understand that every time you swing your credit card, you're basically communicating with 1,000 people all over the globe without understanding how interconnected you are. So that was that. And to kind of bind this together and explain why I needed this intro, it's because it looks like the only thing I do is to dig around in dumpsters. So I kind of label myself as a product designer and a professional dumpster diver these days. And I got fed up with seeing the tons of perfectly fine fruits being thrown away, and I needed to act on it in one way or another. And as a designer, I tend to look at the world as basically a buffet of materials to work with. And I started arranging these and trying to see some potential, like should I try to create leather from it, or jams, pop-up restaurant, or what? But then I stumbled upon my gold mine, basically. I remembered seeing a documentary from a marine ecologist visiting shipwrecks at the bottom of the ocean that had been there for something like 1,100 years. And there were 3 things that were always perfectly intact. It was sugar, honey, and alcohol. Sugar and honey serve as a preservative, and alcohol, over 23%, doesn't require a best before date. And now I'm going to leave you with a relatively long video, because if an image can say 1,000 words, I bet a video can say at least 1,000,000. So bear with me and I'll continue the story in 3-4 minutes.
But food imported dumpsters is going to be like 10 tons of bananas or 3 tons apple, you never know, but it's always like big quantity of whatever you get. My name is Björn Steinar. I'm a product designer and a professional dumpster diver. Nobody really should tolerate food waste. It's ridiculous to throw away. It's a waste of money, it's a waste of resources, it's a waste of time even. And still we're throwing away like 40% of all the food we produce. It's ridiculous. Oh, it's unlocked, luckily. Yeah, so here come a bunch of grapes. Oh wait, we have way more. There's gonna be a nice grape batch. And look at this. Like, we're not talking about rotten, disgusting stuff. It's just fine looking grapes. This is probably enough to ferment and distill a batch. A lot of the food goes to waste. It's just because of like fluctuations in supply and demand that they can't really know how much they need for the food market, and sometimes they're just thrown away like cartons after cartons of new apples. It's devastating to see, but like even more crucial to take action and do something about it. Okay, the grapes are clean and nice. So next step is gonna be to juice the bunch of it and start fermenting. But I'm gonna start with a batch of blood orange. The process of making alcohol is super simple. I just start by pouring some juice in, add some yeast. The yeast eats all the sugar in the juice and turns it into alcohol. This one here is apple, and this is, you see, like there's no bubbling. This is totally finished to be distilled. This is yellow melon and still super active. I put it in, what, 4 days ago? Yeah, so now I'm just gonna get to distilling this stuff. I started fighting food waste by handcrafting vodka from discarded fruits. To be able to do this, I designed and built a simple open source distilling machine so more people could join the fight and help preserve valuable resources by turning it into strong liquor, because strong liquor doesn't require a best before date. The support. Right, so helix attached. Yeah, everything's in place for distilling to start. I just set the temperature to 80 degrees because the alcohol evaporates from 79. Current temperature is 23 degrees. And I allow it to heat up slowly, and then when it reaches 80 degrees, alcohol vapor rises, condenses in the copper coil because of the cold, and out flows pure alcohol. Batch number 8, apple. Looks super clear, and let's see. Wow, it's just like a tiny hint of apple, but it's super good. Yeah, so that's a bunch of good apples right there. Can try.
So all you fine people, hope that was loud and clear and kept your attention. So in short, that was my approach to start with. I designed a simple open source distilling machine, and I wanted to create a worldwide movement that would kind of join the fight and help me share this knowledge base. It turned out that not enough people downloaded the kit. There was like a handful of people from here and there that kind of wanted to join, but it didn't have like the immediate effect that we desperately need, because food waste is a massive problem on a global scale. And I had been playing around with having it as illegal as possible because I wanted to attract attention. So the distilling machine is very illegal, dumpster diving is very illegal, and it was kind of easy to get access to the press because this is newsworthy. This weirdo doing some bootleg alcohol worthy of talking about. But it turned out the graphics and everything was a bit too tacky. I needed to scale it down or like tone it down a bit, find a language that would maybe appeal to a different crowd. And I needed to reassess my options a bit. This was still the scenario, like tons of perfectly fine fruits being thrown away. And there was like no real progress. I was maybe making 30 liters of vodka a week, but that's not enough to solve a problem. So I got back to the drawing board, and I gathered a meeting of all the local food importers that import 90% of the food in Iceland, and I decided to kind of stop fighting them and trying to join in one way or another. And we agreed on this meeting that they would give me all the fruit before they would need to throw it away, which meant that I could get all the health certificate of the produce, to get all the licenses and everything that I needed from the government to be able to produce this. And of course, this is beneficial for everybody. They don't want to throw it away because they're losing money and they need to pay for the landfill. Of course, I don't want it for the environmental reasons. So this is kind of one of these junctions where capitalism and environmental issues manage to meet in the middle. So now every time they need to maybe a whole container of strawberries goes to the site or something, they need to throw away 40 tons, and then it's easier and better that they're able to call me. I come and pick it up and transform it into alcohol. So I stepped away from being like the ghetto producer of this and started being more of a middleman. So I pick up the fruits from them, bring it to an industrial kitchen where they would juice it and do everything in a certified kitchen, and then bring that produce to a local distiller that would be able to produce it on a much larger scale that I'm ever capable of, and which just results in more basically upcycling of fruits. And this is all about value. This is about environmental value and of course capital to be able to run an operation like this. So from a point like this, where it's always like microscopic installations of a tiny bit of fruits that I'm distilling and telling a story, basically just a small positive impact into a very big conversation, to just a product that can be market ready. Up until this point, I've just been using these distillers for like small scale events, like an open bar at design or art festivals, but it has the potential to become something much larger. And I put it on hold for the past year and a half now because I've needed a lot of time to establish my plastic recycling facility, but this is definitely the next thing up, and I hope that this could help, that I'm going to be able to execute this well, get this to a market and spread this to the world. So that's me and my food waste adventures. Thank you very kindly.
Wow, Björn, thank you so much. I love your work and how you are opening our eyes to what we need to see, to be more careful of how we treat the food on the planet and what we are growing.